So in the previous video, we saw some examples wherein a set of vectors could qualify as a vector space, and also the contrary, in the sense a set of vectors which do not qualify as a vector space. So we'll just take a look at one more such example wherein we show how a set of vectors can act as a vector space. And that example is this. That is, let's say that let's consider the set of all real valued continuous functions. Set of all real valued continuous functions in an interval, say a to b. Now let us try to observe what it means when we say set of all real valued continuous functions in an interval. So let us concentrate on the x-axis. The interval a to b is this. Say 0 is somewhere here. Need not necessarily be, just for my reference. Now one can visualize an infinite number of continuous functions within this interval. Just to draw a few, this is one such continuous function within this interval. It's just a rough sketch. Maybe another one, probably a third one, and so on and so forth. So you can see that there are infinite possibilities in which you can have a continuous function in this interval a to b. So the question rather is, will this set of continuous functions in the interval a to b, that will be an infinite set, will that set qualify as a vector space? The answer is yes. Let's say, for example, fx is one such continuous function in this interval a to b. Let's say that is, say, sin x, and gx is another such a continuous function in this interval a to b, and let's say it is x square. Gx is x square. Both these are continuous in this interval. Now if I define addition the way we define addition conventionally, the addition of two functions, we end up getting sin x plus x square, which in turn is another continuous function in the same interval. So you can see that the addition, the way we have defined here, the addition on this set of continuous functions in the interval a to b is closed. Similarly, if I take a scalar and multiply it with any of the continuous functions in the interval a to b, obviously the result will be another continuous function, because alpha is just a scalar. It will be a real valued scalar. The product of a scalar alpha and a continuous function fx in the interval a to b will also be definitely a continuous function in the interval a to b. That means the multiplication, the scalar multiplication, is also closed. And as we saw, the vector addition, where the vectors we now refer to are continuous time functions in the interval a to b. The vector addition is closed, the scalar multiplication is closed. And one can see step by step whether the other axioms or properties are satisfied. So like x plus y is equal to y plus x, in terms of the continuous time functions that we are having here, one can say fx plus gx will be equal to gx plus fx, and so on and so forth. So one can see whether the properties are also satisfied. So the set of functions, continuous functions in the interval a to b, within a certain interval a to b, does constitute a vector space. Of course, provided you define addition and scalar multiplication the proper way, so that it is closed under the vector addition and scalar multiplication. So with that example, just one more point to be added here regarding the scalar, which I might not have emphasized properly in the previous videos. The scalar, maybe I will write it here, the scalar alpha in the context of our discussion, the scalar alpha is or has to be from the field. It has to be from the field, the elements, or it has to be from the field from which the elements of the vector is chosen. Maybe I can put it that way. So what I mean by this statement, which I might not have framed properly, what I mean by this statement is that the scalar alpha has to be from the field from which we choose the elements which constitute the elements of the, or from the field from which we choose the elements which constitute the elements of the vector. So what I mean is, suppose we are choosing elements from R2 to form the constituents of the vector. We are choosing elements from R rather to form the constituents. So for example, in the case of R2, a vector is in general expressed, in the previous videos we have seen the vector in general is expressed as this. Another vector, a different one, may be expressed like this. And to be more specific, a specific example could be x is equal to 1.25 and 2. Now here, alpha, when you talk of the scalar, alpha has to be an element from the set of real numbers, because the constituent, the components of these vectors, if you see, are from R, the set of real numbers. So that is what I mean by this statement. The scalar alpha is from the field from which the constituents or components of the vector are formed. So that has to be kept in mind. So with that understanding of a vector space, or rather a few more, we have gone through a few examples, and with this example we will move on to a discussion on subspace. We'll move on to a discussion on subspace of a vector space. We'll move on to a discussion on subspace of a vector space. Now, what is meant by a subspace? So the definition goes like this. Let V be a vector space. Let V be a vector space and M be a subset, and M be a subset of vectors. Let M be a subset of vectors that constitute V. So V, to begin with, V is a vector space, and a vector space, as you know by this time, is constituted by a set of vectors. So let V be a vector space which is constituted by a set of vectors, and M be a subset of vectors that constitute V. So this picture, if I may show, this is not a very comprehensive picture, but just it's a picture to aid the understanding of what the statement that is written here. Let's say that this is V, the vector space, and it is constituted by many vectors. So I'll just represent it like this. Let this be the vectors. This is the vector space V. This is the vector space V, and it is constituted by many vectors like this. Now, let V be a vector space and M be a subset. So let M be this. Let M be this. Now this is a subset of the vectors that constitute the vector space V. So V be a vector space and let M be a subset of vectors that constitute V. Now, M is a subspace. M qualifies as a subspace. M qualifies as a subspace if, let's see what are the conditions. So keep track of the discussion. V is a vector space made up of a set of vectors. M is a subset of vectors that constitute V. And M qualifies as a subspace if X plus Y, where X is an element of M and Y is an element of M. So if I take any two elements from M, and M is nothing but a subset of vectors which constitute the vector space V. So if I take, so again if I want to show it in terms of the picture I had drawn earlier, this is V, this is M. So X is this and maybe Y is this. So X and Y are from M, and if you add them the way you have defined vector addition, the result that you get has to be an element of M. So this is one condition. That means vector addition has to be closed in the sense that if you take any two vectors from the subset M and add them the way you have defined vector addition, and that has to be the way you have defined vector addition to form V. Now when you add X and Y which you have taken from M that way, the result has to be a vector which is in M. It should not be out of that subset which you have chosen. So that is one condition. So it has to be closed under vector addition. And if you do alpha into X, that is the scalar multiplication, where alpha is a scalar, and I have explained to you a short while ago how alpha, a scalar, is chosen, or what that alpha scalar is actually. So it is from the field the elements of which form the components of the vector space. So if V was a vector space which was constituted by vectors from R2, then alpha has to be from R. It has to be a real number. Anyhow, that I have explained earlier. So in the present context, when we are discussing a subspace or vector space, if you do alpha into X, where alpha is a scalar and X is a vector from the subset M, then of course I will write it down here. X is an element of M and alpha is a scalar, of course. This result has to be, the result has to be an element of M. So if these conditions are satisfied, that is the closure is satisfied, M qualifies as a subset of the, qualifies as a subspace of the vector space V. It qualifies as a subspace of the vector space V. Now, of course, the other axioms, the 8 properties, will be automatically satisfied because the subspace that we are talking about is constituted of vectors which actually is a part of the vector space V. So V being a vector space, the vectors which we have chosen from that vector space V, so that we end up with a subset of vectors which we call as set M, will also satisfy all those 8 axioms because they satisfy it in V. That is how V was formed. So it is just enough if we verify whether the closure property is satisfied. Once the closure property is satisfied, the subset M will qualify as a subspace. Now there is a very important point here. A subspace cannot be an empty set. A subspace cannot be an empty set. The reason is that subspace cannot be empty. It has to have at least one element, and that at least one element has to be the zero vector. Because suppose you do alpha x, and alpha, as I said, is a scalar. Let us say x is a vector whose components are real numbers. X is a vector whose components are real numbers. Maybe x is from R2 or R3 or Rn. So if I do alpha into x and alpha turns out to be 0, because alpha is just a scalar, and since x is from R2 or R3 or Rn or even R for that matter, alpha can be 0. So alpha being 0, if alpha happens to be 0 in this operation, since the result has to be closed, in the sense that since the result also has to be from the subset, it has to also from the subspace, this result, as we know, is going to give us the zero vector. So the zero vector has to be in the subspace. To explain that again, suppose you have taken x from the subset of vectors which claims to be a subspace, and alpha happens to be a scalar which is 0, then this scalar multiplication will by definition give us the result as zero vector. And since this has to be closed, the scalar multiplication has to be closed, the zero vector has to be in the subspace, or the set of vectors that you claim to be the subspace. So the subspace cannot be an empty set. At least the zero vector has to be in it. There is something more to say about the zero vector later. It has been hinted in some other context earlier in one of the problems earlier, but we'll speak more about it later. Zero vector, the name zero vector is more of a symbol because it can have different, it can have a more involved meaning, so to say. So for the time being, the zero vector is more of a symbol. It doesn't need not it need not necessarily means that the zero vector will have all zeros in it. Okay, so now with that understanding, let us take a look at a few examples of what constitutes a subspace and what does not constitute a subspace. One very simple example is that R2 is a subspace of R3. R2 is a subspace of R3. This is a very simple example. I'll just put the statement here. You can think about it. The other examples which are more involved, I will explain in detail. So R2 is a subspace of R3, a very simple example to begin with. Now let us take a slightly more complicated case. Now the question is, this is in the form of a question, is the subset where x1 is greater than or equal to 0, x2 greater than or equal to 0, a subspace of R2. So R2, you know, is the set of vectors in 2 dimension whose components are real. So real vectors in 2D space. So is the subset X equal to x1, x2 with x1 greater than equal to 0, x2 greater than equal to 0, a subspace of R2. So we can write it like this. This is a formal way of writing it down. This is the set X equal to x1, x2 transpose. Is it an element of where x is an element of R2 given x1 greater than equal to 0, x2 greater than equal to 0. So this is the question. So is this subset So one example of one element from this subset is that, remember x1 and x2 greater than 0. An example is 0.1 and 101. x1, x2 both are greater than or equal to 0. Or it can be 0 and 101, whatever way you want to look at, but x1 and x2 has to be 0 or greater than 0. So let's find out whether this is indeed a subspace of R2. So let's add two vectors. x1, x2 is one of the vectors. We will add it to another vector y1, y2 from the same subset. So both x1, x2 as well as y1, y2, all these are greater than or equal to 0. Of course, the result will be, again, we define addition the way we define addition in our normal arithmetic. We define addition like this. And you can see that since x1 as well as y1 is greater than or equal to 0, this will be greater than or equal to 0. x2 as well as y2 greater than or equal to 0, this will be greater than or equal to 0, which means that the result that you are going to get will be in the same subset. Because this result is also, say, let us, if suppose we decide to write it as z1, z2, z1 will be greater than or equal to 0, this will be greater than or equal to 0, which means that this is from the same subset. So the closure as far as addition is concerned is satisfied. But what happens when we look at scalar multiplication? Let us do alpha into x. Alpha into x with alpha, remember alpha is a scalar, and the scalar is from the field, the elements of which constitute the components of the vector. So here alpha is from R, and alpha can be negative. So if alpha happens to be negative, let's say minus 2x as an example, minus 2, x is 1, x1 is 1, x2 is 2. The result will be minus 2 minus 4, and you can see that this is not greater than or equal to 0, this is not greater than or equal to 0, which means that this operation, the scalar multiplication, need not necessarily be always closed, which means that the condition is violated, and hence the subset x, x1, x2 transpose element of R2 with x1 greater than or equal to 0, x2 greater than or equal to 0 is not a subspace of R2. So this is an example wherein the subset does not end up being a subspace. Now let's look at a different example. This is again set of all lower triangular, set of all lower triangular 3 cross 3, 3 by 3 matrices. Set of all lower triangular 3 cross 3 matrices. Now is this a subspace of the vector space? Is this a subspace of the vector space comprising or constituted by all 3 by 3 matrices? Of course, the entries of these matrices are all real from R. The answer is yes, because if you add two lower triangular 3 by 3 matrices, you will end up getting another lower triangular 3 by 3 matrix. So it is closed under addition. And if you multiply a matrix with a scalar, a number, a real number, if you multiply a 3 by 3 lower triangular matrix with a scalar, you will end up getting a 3 by 3 lower triangular matrix. So under scalar multiplication as well as addition, the set is closed. The set of 3 by 3 matrices, lower triangular 3 by 3 matrices is closed. And the other properties anyhow will be satisfied by the vector space from which we have chosen this subset. Which means that this is, yes, it is a subspace. Set of all lower triangular 3 by 3 matrices forms a subspace of the vector space comprising of all 3 by 3 matrices. Now the next example is connected to an example which we discussed in the previous video, somewhere around timestamp 24 or 25. So the question there was this: whether the set of all positive real numbers, wherein we define addition this way and scalar multiplication this way, constitute a vector space. This was the question there, and we had worked out this in some detail there, and we had seen that this indeed constitutes a vector space. Now the extension that I am attempting here is that let us consider the set of all real numbers. R. Let's consider the set of all real numbers, and let us define addition this way, vector addition this way, the same as earlier, and scalar multiplication this way. So we have a set of all real numbers now with us, and we are defining addition this way and scalar multiplication this way. So we are defining it this way. Now whether this constitutes a vector space, remember, understand the distinction. In that example which I referred to earlier, we had considered the set of all positive real numbers, whereas now we are considering set of all real numbers. Now whether this constitutes a vector space, the answer is yes. You can verify it. You can go through the various axioms, and you can see that this indeed constitutes a vector space. Now that being the case, now this being a vector space, that is the set of all real numbers, wherein we define vector addition like this and scalar multiplication like this. Now this being a vector space, yes, it is a vector space, which I want you to verify. This being a vector space, the set of all positive real numbers, which incidentally becomes a subset of this. It's a subset of set of all real numbers. Set of all positive real numbers is a subset of the set of all real numbers. And in that example earlier, we saw that set of all positive real numbers, wherein we define vector addition like this and scalar multiplication like this, also constitutes a vector space. Which means that set of all positive real numbers is a subspace of the set of all positive real numbers becomes a subspace of the set of all real numbers, wherein vector addition and scalar multiplication is defined like this. Now, the only point that has to be emphasized here is that it was mentioned earlier that the set of any vector, any subspace should have the zero vector in it. Any subspace should have the zero vector in it. Now, which is the zero vector in the set of all positive real numbers? set of all positive real numbers wherein addition is defined this way and scalar multiplication is defined this way. So what is the zero vector in this vector space, which is the zero, because a subspace, this is, as we saw now, this is a subspace of the set of all real numbers. Now this being a subspace, this must have the zero vector in it. So when you look at it, suddenly it looks like, since this is a set of all positive numbers, there is no zero here, which means that this cannot be a subspace because there is no zero here. It is the set of all positive numbers that we are considering, and we have seen that it is a subspace. So the zero vector here is nothing but, let's see what happens when 0 into x, when we do 0 into x. The way we have defined, this is x raised to 0, where x is a positive real number. So if you take a positive real number and raise it to 0, the result is 1. And 1, if you recall the previous example, in the previous video, in that example, 1 was seen to be the zero vector. It plays the role of a zero vector in that 1 happened to be the additive identity. So if I had done 4 is a positive real number, it is one of the vectors of the set of positive real numbers. If I did 4 plus 1, I would have got 4 into 1, which is 4. So you can see that it functions as the zero vector. This is what I meant when I said earlier that the word zero vector is more of symbolic. It need not necessarily mean a vector which has all zeros in it. So we will conclude this video here, and in the next video we will discuss the span and basis of a set of vectors, a span of a set of vectors, and what we mean by the basis of a vector space.